Kia ora.
TALOFA.
My name is Ruby and I'm from Fiddle.
And my name is Aries, and I'm from KARAKIA. Go is the best.
Please join us for our morning karakia. Me inoi tātou. Manawa mai te mauri nuku. Manawa mai te mauri rangi. Ko te mauri kai au. Te mauri te pua. Ka pakaru mai te pō. Tau mai te mauri. Haumie huie taikia.
Today is Tuesday, the 2nd of November.
Ole aso loa lene o November. Today's birthday shoutouts is for
Amelia Biju. Have a great day, Amelia.
This Friday is PARIHAKA. Each day in the broadcast, we will learn part of the PARIHAKA story. Part 1. In the 1800s, the Taranaki settlement of PARIHAKA was home to a powerful yet peaceful resistance to the government taking Māori land. On the 5th of November, 1881, hundreds of government troops entered the village, destroying homes, evicting villagers, and taking their leaders. PARIHAKA is located near Taranaki in the North Island. By the 1880s, it was the largest Māori village in New Zealand. The two leaders, called Te Whiti o Rongomai and Tohu Kakahi, established PARIHAKA with the aim to create a community where everyone was equal and self-sufficient. At the time, the New Zealand government was confiscating Māori land throughout Taranaki. Māori who had lost their land were forced to relocate, and many choosing the safe village of PARIHAKA.
Story time! Today's story will be read by Pia. She will be reading
Ngā tatara kihi o PARIHAKA.
Have a great day!
Ngā tātara kihi o PARIHAKA by Lucy Ira Bailey. Rarawa was in the bakery, kneading bread dough, when she heard the news. The government men were here, talking to Te Whiti, Api cried, bursting through the door. Rarawa heard the note of panic in her brother's voice and left off her work. Her hands were aching anyway. No need to run to tell us that, boy, Auntie Marta said. Those Pākehā are always here, coming and going, saying the same thing and never listening. The kuia shovelled more loaves into the oven, swinging the heavy paddle without effort. Now pick up that sack for me. Api hefted the flour onto the bench where Auntie Marta could better reach it. They read out some sort of proclamation, he continued. We've got 2 weeks before the soldiers come. That's what everyone is saying. We'll see, Auntie Marta said, but I've heard it all before. Anything else? We've got work to do. Te Whiti and Tohu have called a meeting. Everyone's coming. Well, we'll need more bread then, Auntie Marta said, wiping the sweat from her forehead. She shooed Api outside and came over to check on the loaves. Rarawa tried to hide her slow progress, but there wasn't much the kuia missed. Auntie Marta sighed, then surprised Rarawa by smiling. Off you go for a swim. It'll wake you up. And come back with rangi. We'll need the extra help. She gave Rarawa a quick squeeze with one arm. You'll work better after a break. Rarawa wiped her hands and gently covered the balls of dough with a cloth. As she left, she heard the kuia muttering, "It will be all right," Auntie Marta was saying to herself. But Rarawa wasn't so sure. Her brother didn't usually get things wrong. As Rarawa ran through the streets, messengers were already heading out of the pā. There was no doubt people would come to the meeting. Parihaka was where everyone came to hear the teachings of tohu and te whiti and to make decisions together. There would be hundreds here by nightfall, more over the coming days. At the river, she barely stopped to whip her dress over her head before plunging into the still, cold October water. She gasped, heart hammering, and ducked her head under. When Rarawa came up, she saw Rangi on the big rock, basking in the sun like a skink. "Are you coming in?" Rarawa called. Rangi screwed up her nose, then shrugged. She leapt into the river, landing with a big splash right in front of Rarawa. "Did you hear?" Rarawa asked as soon as her friend surfaced. "Hear what?" "The soldiers are coming." Rangi stood up, suddenly very serious. "Soldiers? Are you sure?" "I think so," Rarawa said, remembering all the messengers. She looked down the river, shivering in the waist-deep water. The soldiers would be coming from that direction, the new road that led to New Plymouth. When the Pākehā government began taking down fences and destroying crops, Te Whiti had tried talking. When words failed, instead of turning to violence, as the government expected, the people of Parihaka turned their swords into ploughshares, just like it said in the Pākehā Bible. The two girls' fathers had been among the first to plough up the surveyed fields in protest. They had been arrested and sent to prison without trial. Hundreds more followed. Rarawa had turned 12 without her father. Now she was 13. She didn't know when she would see him again. Rarawa and Rangi clambered up the bank and began to dress. "Are you scared?" asked Rangi. "Yes," said Rarawa. She was scared, but it was only then that she began to cry. Rarawa angrily brushed the tears away. Crying wouldn't help. What if they take our brothers this time? "Maybe we should all just leave," said Rangi. But the girls knew that no one would be leaving. This was their home, and the people of Parihaka had done nothing wrong. Instead, the Pākehā needed to see what Rarawa could see now. The potato and kamokamo and cabbage fields, the acres of wheat, their peaceful way of life. They would stay and stand strong, just as they always had. Rarawa focused on the slap, slap, slap of her poi. She swung them in time with Rangi and the other girls, but fear had erased the words she was supposed to sing. She watched the soldiers marching towards them, the early morning light glinting on their rifles. The soldiers passed the young girls skipping. They passed the young boys playing with the marbles and spinning tops. The people of Parihaka were greeting the soldiers with their most treasured possessions as a sign of peace. They were greeting the soldiers with their children. As the men drew closer, the girls sang even louder. Rarawa met her friend's eye, and the words came flooding back. They spoke of the land, their ancestors, and peace. Rarawa felt the strength of the song and of the voices around her. The soldiers were upon them, pushing their way through. The stale smell of sweat was overpowering. Then Auntie Marta was there, holding out a loaf of bread. But the soldiers ignored Auntie Marta and the other women with bread. They carried on up to the marae, where the rest of the people sat, silent and unmoving. For the next few hours, Parihaka held its breath. The man named Bryce, with his cannon on the hill, read out an order for the people to leave. Rarawa sat with her mother and brother on the marae, her eyes fixed on the albatross feathers on the heads of Tohu and Tawhiti. No one spoke, but whenever Api caught her eye, he gave Rarawa a gentle smile. When the soldiers finally acted, Rarawa thought her heart might stop, but they didn't fire their cannon. They didn't take her brother. Instead, they took Tohu and Tawhiti and marched them away. As they left, the two men told their people to be steadfast, peaceful, and unafraid. We looked for peace and we find war, Tohu called. Rarawa and her mother held one another close. Her mother's cheek was hot and wet. Are we safe? Rarawa whispered. Will all of the soldiers leave now? But her mother said nothing.